are watching Lady Arcaders presenting Attract Mode. Good evening to you all. My name is Zokubun, and it is a pleasure to be back here on the host mic for our weekly show here at Lady Arcaders. Now, if you are unfamiliar with what Lady Arcaders is, we are an all-women's gaming collective. We run weekly showcases and each occasional charity event, and we do a bunch of fun community stuff. Like, for example, if you check out our socials or !Advent in the chat, we've got an Advent calendar going on with a whole bunch of free games recommended by our community members. Please go ahead, get that in chat. Once again, that's !Advent, and check out all the fun free games that we've already lit people to for the month of December. Now, this is continuing until the 25th, I believe, or 24th. You know what? Don't quote me on that. But we've got other fun activities in the works, like the Lady Arcaders Game Awards. If you are a part of our community, and if you're not, hey, come join us. But if you're a part of our community and you want to highlight a game you love, we've got a nomination form going on right now until the 18th. That's !LA Awards in chat, LAAWARDS. Go ahead, nominate your favorite game, introduce this whole community of women who love games to another fantastic game that you've loved this year. And we've got all sorts of funky categories. So we're waiting to see what you've got in store for us. Now, today we've got another fantastic showcase. This has been back a couple of times already. It's the Blackboard of Doom by none other than BunniestBunRena herself. Now, she's been here a couple of times doing things like Toho. I believe, wow, my brain is like futzing right now. Chiptunes. But today, we're going to talk a little about a genre that's near and dear to my heart, the classic Flash point-and-click escape room, and one series in particular, Submachine. So, whenever you're ready, Professor Bun, I believe class is in session.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here again. I just keep coming back. I keep sneaking into the studio. They keep changing the keys out, but well, I still find a way in, but we don't have to talk about that. Now!
Don't tell anyone, we keep the blackboard here just for you.
Oh, thank you. Welcome.
So, somebody had to carry the blackboard in.
Thank you. Already the banter's starting well. This means it's gonna be a good day today.
And actually, just real quick, speaking of the banter, we've got an extra guest here with us. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am beamqueensol. I don't know why I'm here. I'm scared. Help.
There's nothing to be scared of.
Alright, you and me, Soul. Hopefully, by the end of this, we'll be able to escape the submachine.
Well,
no guarantees.
Tentative. No, but, I'm always happy to be back. I don't, oh, no, I do these quite often, and they're fun pretty much every single time. I get to talk at everyone for about 3 hours, see where it happens, see what, unfolds, so to say. And I'm here to talk to you about one of my favorite series of all time, Submachine, which you wouldn't think would be this in-depth, but you see all these circles? I went all out for this. I went all out for this one. We got an increase in the art budget, as you can tell. We've upgraded the blackboard a little bit. It's got a nice little background. I've done some stuff. I've drawn some stuff before it even starts. We're really... I put a whole extra $7 into this one for y'all. So I really hope you appreciate it. Unfortunately, that $7 did come out of the pizza budget, so I'm sorry to say I don't have that with me today. I didn't buy any.
Well, what is a pizza but like circles and orbs, right?
Oh, You got
You
a
just
pizza
put it on the board.
So
I see.
the upside is we have $10 in the art budget now, but the downside is now we have pretzels instead of pizza.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm sorry to say. But yes, it's Submachine time. Do we have any prior knowledge on this? Any?
I have a grand total of 0 knowledge outside of the link about the stuff itself. That's about it, and I didn't even really look at that.
Yo, awesome.
I have played the first 3 games in the series, but I paid 0 attention to the actual lore, and I'm hearing the lore is deep.
Oh boy. I'm so sorry. This is gonna blindside you a little bit. This one might catch you off guard. Yes. The Submachine lore goes crazy. It's a wild time. We're gonna be here for a while and for a reason.
Would you say it's a lore machine?
Yes. To start out, the author, Maciej, Polish, makes comics for a living. Very cool person. He's a really cool comic artist. He's got a really distinct art style, which I can't draw anything like him, so you're gonna have to look at it yourself, which, to be fair, I recommend you check out all of his art on your own time because it's really pretty. He's a really good artist. And he started out just drawing comics, didn't make too much off of it, but fun passion, works well, and he's a surprisingly good artist. Submachine is sort of his little baby. It started out as a pretty small project and then ballooned into, well, you see all the circles. It's going to get very complicated very quickly. But it has ballooned into his brainchild and has sort of become the most popular thing that he's done. It's made its ways across the sea, if you couldn't tell by the fact that I'm talking about it and I'm not Polish. Big surprise, I know. But all of the art done for the Submachine series is done by him. It's a one-man team. It's all done originally on paper, so it's all, and then digitally enhanced, all that fun stuff. It used to be put in Flash, but as we all know, Flash, rest in peace, my friends, died at the end of 2020. And unfortunately, the sub-games died with them.
Can we get some F's in chat for Flash?
Yes. The original versions of the Submachine games did die with it. Unless you have, like, Flashback, or, no, Flashpoint, or some sort of emulator, something like that. They're otherwise lost to the sands of time. However, I'm happy to say that as of quite recently, we do not live in that timeline anymore, because now all of the Submachine games have been released on Steam as a big bundle package. It's like 20 or 30 bucks. It's so worth it. It's very good. And we'll be going over so much of it. Now, there is a disclaimer. Everything I say is theory and not fact. There will be facts mentioned, but a lot of this is going to be my interpretation. And as it is going to be my interpretation, it is subject to being wrong. So, there's a big asterisk. The series has been, well, people have been trying to solve it for a while, so the best I can do is give a generally accepted opinion with my own flair to it. However, it is entirely possible that I am disgracing the holy name of Maciej, and I am ruining his vision as we speak. So,
I believe we were just told, Sol, that we'll be graded on the quiz, but we can't fail.
Yes. You can't fail.
Good. We can't get an F, but we can get a D.
Yes. I can only tell you that your interpretation is strange. But, all that aside, we get to start at the very first Submachine game. And the very first Submachine game is a bit of a weird one, because when it was made, at the time, Matthias didn't know that he was going to make, give or take, 15 more games, so it's a little weird. It sort of suffers from first installment syndrome, where it's a little quirky, not everything's sorted out yet, it's a little strange. The note in particular, the one note that makes an appearance in this game, is so strangely worded. I'll see if I can get an exact transcript up for you, but oh boy. The first Submachine game, which we're going to be, by the way, we're going to be using the canon of the most recent release of the Submachine games. Some things were changed with the most recent re-release, which is why I felt inclined to do this. But, the first Submachine game follows a nameless explorer who happens down into the subnet, as we call it. And we'll get more into these terms later once they start meaning something. And drops down into it to explore a bit and gets trapped in an area that we only know as the basement, because that's what the first Submachine game is called. At least post-update, like, I don't know, 3.0 or something. There's a very interesting side effect of Submachine 1 being the way it is. That being, it's been updated, like, 9 times over the course of its existence, due to Matthews never truly being really happy about it. The most recent version is super changed, and it's pretty different, has a lot of new stuff, but we don't have to get too far into it. The basement is a bit of a weird place, because it's got a different look than pretty much the entire rest of the series. And for some reason, this look has stayed consistent throughout every version of the first Submachine game, and throughout all future installments. It has never been retconned for some reason, and I don't quite know why. It just stays the way it is, and even if the puzzles in the game change, or the note changes, or even what the game means in the broader scope of things changes, the look of the game never changes. The basement is, let's see if I can draw one of the basement screens. Let me see if I can draw the basement screen.
It shouldn't be too hard. I mean, you let us down into one for this class.
Yes. I'm sure you'll recognize the walls. Now, these sort of cube sort of structures, they are important. Well, kind of encroaching on my Lady Arcada's cabinet here. But you got the doorway in the middle, got the circle. This should be recognizable to anyone who's played the first Submachine game. Got the place for the tiles. Got the door here. Got the door here.
Gonna have you all know this is my first proper contest for Submachine.
Got the stripes on the wall. They kind of look like boards. They kind of, yeah. Yeah. This is about what the basement looks like. And sometimes there's a ladder here. Let's get a ladder. Ladders are cool, right? Now, this is how the basement looks. You think it's like a bad drawing, but this is a it just looks cleaner. The lines are just straighter, and it's got color to it. But this is approximately how the basement looks, and has always looked. All the rooms are slightly different colors. A shade of yellow is usually what they look. Kind of gives backroom vibes for some reason. Way before the backrooms even existed. But these cubic-like structures are important. because the submachines that we are going to be talking about for a while, this is what they are. They are these cube things. They are cube-shaped. Usually they connect together in some way, shape, or form, but... Ooh, ambience popping off a little bit. But the submachines that we're going to be talking about this entire time, essentially they are these sort of cubes that come together, sort of like snap into place, to make rooms and stuff. And the basement, which, by the way, if you're wondering what the circles are, it's time to find out. It's a map. I'm sorry, it's a map. We can put the... This circle right here is where I approximate the basement area of the subnet is. But the basement is sort of this weird structure within the subnet, which, by the way, this whole thing, the subnet? How curious.
Well, I'd already tell there's a bunch of subnets based on that.
This whole thing is the subnet. It's all of the submachines we know about. They all coalesce into one general-ish area that we call the subnet, because all of them are connected to each other in some way, shape, or form. Usually through portals, but we'll get there. The basement, which the first Submachine game takes place in, is generally theorized to be a sort of power transfer kind of place. There's a lot of pipes in the basement that have a lot of weird leaky fluids. It's a part of some of the puzzles. There's electricity that usually goes through some of the wires and stuff. You can find power sources within basement areas, because there's multiple. Submachine 1 takes place in a part of a basement, but there are multiple basement areas, and they sort of all encapsulate this general space within the subnet. So, general recap, the subnet is all the submachines, all coalescing in a general area, sometimes spaced out from each other, sometimes not. Submachines are these weird cube rooms. Sometimes. Basically, they're basically these sort of cube-like rooms. They come together. They look funky. And the basement here is a sort of collection of similarly designed submachines, which each come together, and they all look pretty similar, and they presumably have similar function. Are we keeping track yet? Are we good?
So far, but we'll see how this fares later.
So, all right, sweet. We're getting all of the proper nouns out of the way. So, this first game takes place in the basement, and the whole idea is that you're trying to get out, because you sort of just wandered in, and there's no way back. So, time to do some exploring, see what happens. And as of very recently, with the release of the new Submachine Legacy Collection, my stomach is very mad at me. I would be too. With the release of the new Submachine Legacy Collection, the purpose is a bit tentative, but once you get out, you sort of crawl a little deeper into the submachine, or not the submachine, but the subnet. I'm gonna get those confused a few times. I'm gonna apologize for that. It'll happen eventually. And it's the reason why these two circles are so close right here, because they sort of awkwardly connect now in a strange little way. Kind of. A little bit. As of late. But there are some interesting concepts introduced within the first Submachine game. first, we need to talk about Kent. Kent is a real place somewhere. At least, presumably. There's gotta be at least some place named Kent on the Earth. I don't remember where specifically. People
I'm pretty
theorize.
sure there's a Kent in the UK.
Yeah, something. There's a Kent somewhere in the world. But, Kent is a very specific place. It is presumed that under Kent is where the subnet lies. Somewhere under there is where the subnet is. And we know this kind of generally because of two things, the Kent Lighthouse and the Kent Waterfall. Submachine 1 brings up the Kent Waterfall, which is not a super important location, kind of, a little bit. The reason it's important is because it has a connection to a very important character. A person who goes by the name of Murtaugh, which I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Murtaugh is a very, very important figure, which we're going to be talking about more and more as we sort of move along the games, because for now, we don't know too much about him. One thing that is important is that Murtaugh, as it's detailed in the note, which is worded very nonchalantly, but it's worded in the note that Murtaugh loses an arm on a vacation to Kent. It's not stated how or why, but at some point in time, Murtaugh loses his arm. However, when he takes a trip to the Kent Waterfall, he has a bit of a strange spiritual awakening. And this is gonna sound crazy, but we need to get out of the way, and I promise it'll make more sense later. However, he awakens himself to karmic abilities. He awakens himself to the power of karma under the Kent Waterfall, and is given the ability to manifest an arm, a karmic arm. I'm not kidding. You're just gonna have to go with it for just a little bit. I promise. I promise. Please, please, stay with me. And
We're trying.
And this karmic arm is very important because it's the main way Murtaugh becomes involved with the subnet. At least one of the main ways. And this is all detailed just as nonchalantly as I put it in the original note from Sub 1. Let me see if I can find the exact text of the note. I'm imagining I can. Ugh. Let me see. Can I? Yes, yes. This note is truly unhinged. This is going to be direct quote. Last summer I went camping under the big waterfall of Kent. I guess it was a great trip for me, however some people do not understand why. Well, I did lose my left arm, but what the hell? I found out I had a third arm, the invisible one. Since then I started to learn how to use my karma arm, and soon my skills were that of a master. It wasn't a surprise to me when people started turning their backs on me, since I was considered to be a freak and mentally ill. Funny thing, I can't tell them the truth. It would be like explaining the possibility of space travel to a goldfish. Real note that they just drop in the middle of Submachine 1. Completely unprompted.
I'm sorry, the karma arm.
Yes.
And just to repeat.
Yes.
Was this note in the original version of the game, the one that Mateus made when he thought he wasn't making a whole series?
I believe so.
Are we sure? Okay, I get the feeling they had an idea that might.
They were like, I don't know, maybe a few. So
maybe a few days as a treat.
So
maybe 16 games as a treat.
Well, you know, just a few. But, yes, this is real information, and I promise it'll all come together by the end, once we learn what karma actually is. Because it is real within the Submachine universe. Har har. But in terms of other things, we also get introduced to the lighthouse, which is a very important location as well, because the Kent Lighthouse is a part of the subnet by the time we get there. But presumably, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, by the time Murtaugh gets there. Because of his funny karmic arm abilities, he sort of shuts himself off in the Kent Lighthouse. And the lighthouse was built by one Henry O'Toole, which we'll come back to him. He's also important. There's not a lot of characters, but the ones that are there are important. Henry O'Toole is going to be coming up a few times because the buildings he builds are very important, and the lighthouse is one of them. Murtaugh shuts himself up in the Kent Lighthouse so he can sort of do his own study on his own weird, cool powers. And through this, he also, presumably, finds the subnet. And, oh boy, is that going to end up being quite the thing later on. But, in terms of Submachine 1, we're relatively fine. We don't actually get too much information, and the basement is going to be a sort of weird enigma for basically all of this explanation. I don't think we're ever going to be coming to a satisfying conclusion about what it is, but it's there. It sure is. But, moving on to Submachine 2, these first ones are going to seem quick, but once we get to the later games and it starts getting more heavy and the games start getting longer, oh boy. The Submachine 2 takes place in the Kent Lighthouse after it's been sort of pulled into the subnet, because the general subnet likes to pull structures from the real world, just whoop, you're mine now. And they usually don't fit quite as well into the structure of the subnet, but it likes to amalgamate them in regardless. We will put down this location here because the lighthouse is a part of the root, and the root is essentially the origin point for the entirety of the subnet. It's where they started building the submachine, essentially. And the lighthouse ends up getting amalgamated in there as a pretty important part, because right underneath the lighthouse is a lot of original submachines. A lot. But we'll get into those later. The root itself as a location is important for Submachine 5, aptly named The Root. So we're going to have to wait on that one a little bit. But do know that the lighthouse is an important part of the route. Now, the lighthouse is where, of course, Murtaugh does all of his studies. And, on a bit of a side tangent, but not really, we get one of the best Submachine characters in this game. It is a cat. The cat's name is Einstein. Murtaugh finds him in the lighthouse, despite the fact that it has been completely sealed off from the outside world. And so Murtaugh decides to name him Einstein because he can supposedly teleport through walls. So, just in case you weren't interested in the series enough as is, we have teleporting cats. Go buy the game. There's a canon teleporting cat. Whether it actually knows how to teleport or not, who knows? Murtaugh actually openly theorizes that all cats can teleport, so, well, he's been in the lighthouse for a long time, alright?
I mean, we have it on good authority that cats are liquids, so this just kind of tracks.
Yeah.
There's Schrodinger's cat and now there's Murtaugh's cat.
Yes. Somewhere along this time, he also meets another very important character who goes by the name Elizabeth, or just Liz. And these two become study partners. Presumably within the lighthouse. Liz and Murtaugh connect in some way, shape, or form, and they become important study partners. And their journey through the lighthouse is relatively chill. There's some weird stuff going on with power crystals, which I don't really know what's going on with the power crystals. There was kind of a big retcon that happened very recently with the release of Submachine Legacy. They used to be called Wisdom Gems, and they used to be a pretty important source of power for the subnet. There's a lot of places you could put them, all that fun stuff. But they've been renamed to something way more generic, and it sort of dampens their actual necessity within the plot. So I'm not quite sure what the power crystals are about. I think they're just a power source now. So they exist. Cool. They exist. But we actually don't get a crazy amount of lore within the lighthouse because a lot of it got retconned with the release of Submachine Legacy. There used to be some very weird thing going on between Submachine 1 and 2, where Submachine was like a game within the game of Submachine, and I don't even want to think about it right now, so we're not going to
make you think about it. I'm sorry, because this was a question I had coming in here. I played 1, 2, and 3, so I promise after we're past 3, maybe halfway through 4, you won't get these questions from me anymore. The first thing you see when you enter Submachine 2 is the arcade cabinet, and you end Submachine 1 with a coin, I think. And yeah. I remember there was like some kind of fan theory that you used the coin to play the arcade cabinet.
It's yeah, that has mostly been changed with the release of Submachine Legacy. The transition between 1 and 2 has changed. Instead, you go through
just getting rid of games.
True. You actually walk through a Submachine 10 location to get to Submachine 2, which I think is very cool. But it does mean that I don't have to think about the weird connotations of the beginning of Submachine 2, or at least the original one, because it was like, I remember playing a game called Submachine, and then you cut, like, it goes on this whole thing, and I'm just like, oh no, what did you do, Matiz? And I don't think he knew either, so he quickly got rid of it. As soon as he could. But you travel through the lighthouse, sort of guided by the items, all that fun stuff, and there's not a crazy amount of lore. We get some background on the relationship between Murtaugh and Liz. It seems to be fairly close. They seem to be a lot. They make fun of each other every now and then. Murtaugh asks Liz to take care of Einstein while he's out. Fun stuff like that. But from the lighthouse, we get introduced to karma portals. Stay with me, please. I promise. I promise. The connection between Submachine 2 and Submachine 3 is a karma portal that is placed at the top of the lighthouse. It was created by Murtaugh. With his funky little karma arm, he learns how to connect points in the subnet using his karmic energy, and starts making karma portals. So, presumably, he takes this karma portal to a place called the Southern Garden, I believe, and starts doing more work there, but we're not going to go there for a while. It's going to be a little bit till we get to that point. So hang tight. There's a lot of setup, but it'll start making sense eventually. And
Dale, I read right to it for you. This is Submachine, not Pasta Machine. I don't know what to tell you.
Pharma portals? That goes crazy. But this karma portal is pretty much one of the first ones that Murtagh ends up making, at least from what I know. So, it's a bit finicky. It's a bit weird. This one needs power for some reason. It's a very old sort of prototype karma portal. But, going through it, it sort of drops you in a random place within the submachines. Who knows where, but for us, that is very bad, because, instead of going anywhere useful, we go to a place called the Loop, which is where we explore in Submachine 3. And loops are really interesting, actually. Yeah. Now, this particular place is the Loop. It is a very particular, very large, infinitely looping set of rooms with an infinite amount of layers. We'll get to the layers. Don't worry about it.
Imagine being in a loop.
Yeah.
Imagine being in a loop.
But, the loop is not the only loop. Loops are a phenomenon that occur all across the subnet. The loop, the place the loop, is the biggest one, and the meanest one, and the worst one. The gameplay of Sub 3 is entirely just going deeper and deeper and deeper into this loop, solving endless puzzles, essentially, until you can find a way out. Murtagh bails you. Murtagh does you a solid and helps you out and gets you out of there. But, loops are a phenomenon that happen all across the subnet. This one in particular is just very big and mean. You can find them in lots of places. There's a few, there's gonna be a few more in Sub 10 once we get there. They, at some point, someone started using loops as, storage facilities, which is very funny. I mean, they have infinite space, so why not, right? But loops are sort of these spatial anomalies where space will loop back on itself, either vertically, horizontally, or on the z-axis. You get the idea. It's sort of the endless hallway, and there's quite a few of them. Either they loop in terms of they literally loop back on each other, or the structure can just loop endlessly, sort of like a fractal that expands infinitely forever, which is more of what the loop location is. It more expands infinitely forever and confuses everything. Whereas more loops that we'll see later sort of just loop back on themselves, sort of creating this strange cycle where you start walking a direction and you'll come across things you've already seen. Stuff like that. It's unknown what causes these sorts of strange developments. They only happen for submachines that are developed internally by the subnet and not by humans. We'll get to that later. The submachine does build itself. But they're usually structures that are constructed by the subnet, and they're presumably some sort of strange error, or some sort of... who knows? They're just a thing that happens sometimes. I am sure this is not the backrooms, though. I am sure, because we do get an actual backrooms cameo very late into the series. But don't worry, it's hardly canon.
We have backrooms at home.
Yeah. Basically. Anyways, the loop, the location, is reportedly just the worst place you could have possibly gone from the lighthouse. In the note that you get from Murtaugh at the end of the game, he's like, this sucks. This is like literally the worst possible outcome of your actions, and I'm very sorry to say that it's gonna be kind of rough getting out of here. But he does bail you out. There is a way out, and thankfully you don't have to spend too much time solving puzzles. Though interestingly enough, in the original version of Sub 3, not the Legacy version, but the original version of Sub 3, if you instead do not take the bailout from Murtaugh, and you just continue solving the puzzles, you do legitimately just die of thirst.
I love that. That was I did that for the heck of it, and it was oh. Okay.
This is the only Submachine game where you can completely dead end. You can just kill the Explorer if you don't take Murtaugh's out, because it really does go on forever. Interestingly enough, it is stated in some notes later on in the series that for like every person that enters the loop starts in the same place. And the loop does, it's sort of like pi, where, you know, you start at the beginning of the pi, and, you know, all the numbers, you know the beginning digits of pi, 3.1415925, whatever, but, the loop, the location, acts in much in the same way with the puzzles, where you start at the same place every time, and you can keep going infinitely forever. But theoretically, you can map it out. You just have to keep going forever. But it's entirely consistent for some reason. It's completely unexplained. But that's just the way it is. So I have no reason to doubt it. But we eventually, after all that nonsense, get teleported to the lab, and the lab is also quite important. Let's see, it's right out here. That's lab? No. Nay.
Larv.
And this sort of general area we're mapping out here.
The karma portal, Shinji.
You did not just say this. But this general place that we're exploring in these first 4 games is called the Outer Rim, and there's a good reason for it. There are sort of 2 sections of the subnet. There's the Outer Rim out here, which I can label. And then there's the core. Let me write that down as well. And they are separated by a pretty big wall. But we start exploring mostly the Outer Rim, generally. Sub 4 does a lot of exploring of the Outer Rim, because the lab is also in the Outer Rim. The Outer Rim is sort of basically the rapid expansion of the subnet. The core is sort of the locations that were built by humans or taken generally from the surface world and sort of amalgamated into the subnet, because by that point the subnet wasn't sentient. Well, kind of, but not sentient enough to self-reproduce. However, at some point the subnet does become sentient. There's something that happens in the root. It's unexplained, because, well, you're gonna start hearing that a lot, but there's something that a scientist does that goes unstated, but it, I guess, at some point triggers some strange thing within the original Submachine where it sort of clicks and it's like, oh, I can do stuff now. And it starts replicating itself. It starts like generative AI making more Submachine, if that makes sense. And it's pretty much just as accurate as generative AI, so that'll be fun. A lot of the Outer Rim is that sort of thing. It is the subnet sort of self-replicating, making these really strange structures. They have like grid-like patterns for the most part. Let's see if I can draw one. Because it's just cubes. It's just cubes.
The future really is cubicles were doomed.
Yes, it's true. Like, they start making these very strange structures. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Of just rooms that connect to each other, and it just keeps building on itself, and building, and building, and it doesn't entirely need to make sense, but so the Outer Rim,
something
yeah.
that amazed me. First game, kind of short, simple, easy to track. Second game on, you need a map. You need a whole ass map.
Yep,
I don't think the map's gonna be good enough for this.
But most of the structures that are generated by the subnet look kind of like this. They're like just cubes that are snapped together, and it's kind of why the basement is formed the way it is. On the outside, it looks something like this. And the internals are just all look similar. Presumably the basement is built generally as a sort of piping network for an energy network for the subnet as a whole, and is sort of just gradually generated as the subnet needs it. Hence why I have the basement here sort of creeping into the core a little bit so we can get power there. I think it makes a little sense. But so the Outer Rim is all of the mostly stuff that the subnet has generated itself, outside of a few exceptions. Which we do actually explore a lot in the lab. We explore a lot of the exceptions. And the core is the stuff that was either originally built by humans in some way, or is very close to being built by humans. They usually don't look like the weird Tetris blocks. But, let's see, what's our time? I'm trying to keep track of time so I know when to, like...
if we add, like, another...
Perfect.
If we add another, like, 4 piece lengthwise, we could probably get a line, and then, what happens then?
But, the lab is a very important location, because the lab is sort of the beginning of the humans' exploration of the subnet as a whole.
And welcome back, folks. We got a little lost in the subnet. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we got stuck in the loop for a bit.
We really should have just taken the green leaf.
We should have.
But we're back!
We're back! We made it! Yeah, weird little hiccup, but we're big chillin' now. You can't run away from me forever. So, how are we all doing? Are we comprehending? Is everything okay?
I think.
Oh, alright,
No?
Oh. Well, you know.
But I'm hearing that I'm not supposed to start comprehending until we get deeper.
Yeah, there's some... Yeah, it'll take a little bit, but... You know. We will start getting a few answers. Maybe. Soon-ish. Once we get to the root, we'll get there. But... I think I was talking about the lab, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So, the lab. Lab. Probably started by Murtaugh. Murtaugh starts up exploration teams. He starts employing people to start exploring and studying the subnet. He sends these teams out to go do all sorts of menial tasks, to go keep track of things, to solve puzzles, all that fun stuff. And they all take base up in the lab and any neighboring dormitories. Murtaugh builds this, I don't know if he personally builds it, but builds a whole bunch of, basically a large laboratory and, like, dormitory, so he can, like, run studies in the subnet, and, you know, starts running his operation out of there. And, the submachine does not like it. The submachine is actively quite hostile to the lab structures, as I'm sure we'll come to see here in a bit. But exploration teams, it's very easy to get lost in the subnet for a few reasons. One, everything's connected by disparate portals or teleportation devices, so it's kind of hard to find people sometimes if you don't know their exact coordinates. So it's fairly common for teams to lose track of each other. It's also very common to get fully lost, because if you lose the coordinates back to the lab, or for some reason don't remember them, bad news, you're not getting back there. At least theoretically. That is how it goes within canon. However, I will say that the coordinates to the lab are 0, 0, 1. So I don't know how anyone actually got lost. I just know it canonically happened, which does not bode well for the exploration teams. I don't know how they lost that number. I don't know how they just never tried it, but somehow they got lost.
They decided, look, let's start backwards. Let's start from 999.
But sometimes the password is right there in front of you, and you just don't think about it.
And even worse is, in later games, we find out that there's a dormitory at 000. You just have to press the button on the machine. You don't even have to change the coordinates. You just have to press the button on the machine and you're safe. And no one tried this. Who knows why? The particular transportation machine... is fairly iconic. Let's see if I can... I want to get a drawing of it up on the board, because it's an important one. It is a very cool design, and I want it tattooed on my body at some point. We'll see how that ends up working out. Now, if I remember correctly, got the little circle. Oh, I'm not doing too bad so far. Got the place you put the coordinates in. Got the button on bottom. Now we could just put 001 here. Nice, nice,
in
nice.
case you forgot how to get back to the lab.
Yeah, exactly. It's got these big spokes. And it's got these 3 balls. Which, this sort of thing, this sort of general design comes up a lot when it comes to transportation devices through the submachine or the subnet. these sorts of devices-ish are scattered all across the subnet. They are everywhere. Let me redraw this line. It's making me...
Why does this look like a cylindrical computer with headphones?
It is. It's jamming out. Come on. Oh, I hate the pencil tool, but I told myself I wouldn't use anything else. There we go. That's much better. And we can just whee. Sort of connects up here with energy when you press the button. And this is the sort of the main-ish way that exploration teams jump across the subnet. And there's a few ways that they do this exploration. And it's detailed in an entirely separate game. Well, game in quotation marks. In fact, Matthews, it makes explicit distinction that it is not a game. And he's kind of right. Called Submachine Universe. And essentially, explorers will either put random coordinates in and just press the button and see what happens, which really seems like a bad idea to me, but I mean, no, people did die. It was a bad idea. So don't do that, but people did do that. That's one method to explore the subnet. Just put in some random things, see what happens. It'll be fun.
Scientific method.
Yes. People also started working their way gradually up the coordinates, which they didn't go anywhere, like, they didn't really go anywhere very, very fast, but they did technically always make progress, so that's something. Or they would do their best to find coordinate numbers in places they've already explored. These three methods are outlined within the ending-ish, kind of Submachine Universe. It's not really an ending, but there is a sort of final location that you can sort of end on as a final thing if you want. Though really, the Submachine Universe game is really just there to explore. You really just kind of take up the mantle as an exploration team and just find quirky little places all over the subnet. It's actually a really calming experience. It's got the same vibes as like Yume Nikki. If you like that kind of thing, then I definitely recommend you check it out. It's very kind of puzzle light, and it's pretty chill. It's also, progression is very obscure. So
it's all fun and games until the Ubua comes out, or whatever,
exactly.
however you pronounce it.
But, so exploration teams are out, and it is quite hard to find other exploration teams, and it's easy to get lost, supposedly, if you're not keeping track of the coordinates. And there is another reason, but we need to get into it later, because if I drop this information on you right now, you're going to leave the stream. So we'll get there when we get there. But, Submachine 4 involves exploring a decent, not like some of the Outer Rim, and some of the core. You sort of hop around to quite a few locations. One of them is the ancient ruins, which have been pulled from outside the subnet, but for some reason it's shown in the Outer Rim, I believe. So we're gonna put that down because it's actually an important location-ish for a different game called Submachine Zero Ancient Adventure, which was made for a game jam. So it's a small, pathetic game, but it's canon, so I have to put it down somewhere.
Tell us how you really feel.
Suddenly I'm realizing this is just Kingdom Hearts.
Well, it's just such a short nothing game and it doesn't really contribute a lot to the lore. But the ruins do appear quite a few times throughout the run of the series, even outside of Ancient Adventure. So I guess they're important. I believe they're at coordinates 104, if I'm correct. Some of the ancient ruins. I think there's also some at 295. I might be wrong about that, though. So, don't quote me on that.
You know what? Just put it in, give it a try, 295. And if you end up somewhere strange and unknown, remember, the dorm is 000.
Of course. Let's just hope I don't, you know, accidentally teleport to the place that has, gravity anomalies.
Oh.
Because that does exist. But, technically, because they appear multiple times and appear to hold some spiritual significance to some degree, I gotta put them somewhere on the map. So, they're out there in the Outer Rim. We don't need to talk about them too much, because they don't factor in a crazy amount to the overall story, but they exist. And they hold some spiritual significance, of which I have yet to decipher, or really care about. There is also, you get to explore some more of the basement in the lab, which is quite nice. There's some... There's a coil charging station. Why? I don't know. There is a coil charging station, though. Coils are a surprisingly prevalent part of the series. I don't know how this happened, but rechargeable coils are everywhere in the subnet, and places to put them are abundant. So always keep a charged coil with you, just in case you happen to run into something that needs one. Great word of advice if you just happen to fall in here sometimes. You get to explore some more of the lighthouse, which is always fun. And you get to discover that it's very connected to the rest of the subnet. Which we'll get into that pretty soon, actually. We're coming up to Submachine 5. Even if I'm rambling a lot, we are actually moving pretty quickly. Nice. But, we explore a lot of places from the lab, and we sort of piece together this sort of macro puzzle across all these different locations, and we set up a statue in a part of the ancient sector. And I don't quite know what it does. It seems to activate, it seems to bring power to the subnet in some way. But, this is our cue, and this is the point where we find out that Murtaugh is alive and well and in the present. You can talk to him, kind of, through the lab a little bit. You can't type at him because the, I don't know how it happened, but the keyboard is completely busted in the one computer the lab has, which is so funny to me.
Chat probably walked on it.
Probably.
Whoops.
It's like completely busted. It's bent. All the keys are broken. It's so bad. So you can only like press the ping button. He's like, oh, someone's around here still. That's crazy. Anyways, you want to go on my little fetch quest? And so you go on his little fetch quest, and that's Submachine 4. And once you finish, he's like, all right, that was pretty cool. You did well. Welcome to the team. And you, the player, actually get inducted into the sort of strange world of Murtaugh's exploration unit. It's a bit of a blind side, honestly. It took me off guard when it happened, but you get to be a part of the crew. It's very interesting. Murtaugh is still alive and well by the during the events of the Submachine games, and you get to talk to him a few times. He'll send you orders. You get to be his homie for a little bit. It's a weird relationship, but you know, you come around after a little bit. And we get to move on to Submachine 5, the root. We're gonna finally start getting some answers, fellas, because we get to talk about the root located at 552, I believe. I think it's located at 552, but the root is the original submachine, as we went over before. A group of scientists came together and made went underground and made this strange sort of teleportation network, and they call it the Submachine because they built it underground. They're very creative people. The original Submachine it's very primitive and very weird. Instead of using a coordinate system, it uses cipher plates. There's this panel that has like 2 slots on top of it, and you put in 2 cipher plates, or just 1 cipher plate, in either slot. And you push the button, and it takes you to the place that corresponds to that. It's a little esoteric, but it works. And that's the important part, because once they got it working, they're like, oh snap, we gotta build this thing. And so they started building up the Submachine, and they started making it a little more intense, to the point where they started just building like a giant computer, essentially. And I believe this central network is the Shiva unit, and the Shiva unit is sort of the mind of the subnet, the sort of the thinking, the processing, the sentience that we talked about earlier. So, and the point that it's like really happens, the point that we really start getting the Shiva unit as we know it today, the moment we start that is at some point, the scientists, having built this giant machine, this giant artificial intelligence, at some point they ask it what the meaning of human life is, and apparently they get an answer. And from that point, both they and the computer decide that, the computer is smarter now. Bad problem to have. The computer is smarter than us now. What do? I don't know. So they have their freak-out session, but their freak-out session does not include turning off the machine. Crucial mistake. They didn't turn it off. They let it run. They let him cook. And so the subnet cooked. And what it eventually becomes the sort of central processing unit of the subnet, which I'm gonna call the Shiva unit, because I believe that's what it is. Again, this is all my theory crafting, so you'll have to take it with a little grain of salt. But the Shiva unit relocates itself, and due to the root being sort of the beginning of all of the nightmare that is the subnet, it is connected to a lot of places. You can go just about anywhere from the root. If you like, it's sort of like a 10 clicks from Hitler kind of deal on Wikipedia, where, you know, you could generally go anywhere with enough tenacity and like maybe a couple jumps. The root sort of acts as not really a hub, but at the very least always a starting point, because it's where the whole subnet started. It sort of grew out from there-ish. It's not the very center, but it is the theoretical center. So through Submachine 5, your goal is to go through the root and sort of yank out all of the power sources, because they're not technically being used anymore. the route is pretty much inactive by the time that we get there. It's the teleportation works, but nothing else does. So, I mean, nice combo at least. Convenient combo. But you're given task by Murtaugh to go into the route, yank out all of the power crystals, so you can power up a submachine that is located at 747, I believe. But don't quote me on that. It might be 757. But
I thought you knew your way around this.
I don't remember the exact numbers, because I always just use the notes, because they always have them written down.
What if the notes are wrong? Then what?
Then we don't have a game. If the notes are wrong, we can't start the game, so hopefully the next time I boot up the games, they are in fact correct. But, oh, we're getting some quirky cutouts. We doing okay? It looks like it was just a little hiccup.
You are still on the stream.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
We're gonna continue getting lost.
Awesome, sweet.
Because I'm not taking notes. Are you, Sol?
What notes?
Alright, I see you are prepared for the test that's going to be at the end of the lecture.
I feel like the test is going to be, can we escape the loop?
Well, we'll get there when we get there, and maybe you'll have answers, maybe you won't. But, yes. So, Submachine 5 mostly is just exploring the route, sort of getting its vibes. It's very rusted. It's very strange. The route looks... I like the teleportation device on the route, though. I think it's very cool. Let's see if I can draw it well. I don't know if I can. Whee! Yeah, this'll work. It's got the 2 places for the cipher plates. It's got the big button. It's got the rivets. Yeah. And usually has 2 pipes coming up from it. That's the best you're getting from my memory. Theoretically, there is a lot more to the route that we don't get to see, unfortunately. There are reportedly 6 cipher plates, and each one of these slots can have either no cipher plate or any one of the 6 cipher plates, and every combination of the 2 is a different location. So that's a lot of locations. Unfortunately, we only get 2 cipher plates in the game, so we only get to explore a little bit, which is unfortunate. But we do get our funny crystals, and we get to put them in the submachine. And we next get to explore...
Sorry, these funny crystals are the wisdom crystals that are no longer wisdom.
Yes.
Okay, I lied. I took a note.
How dare you? But...
I promise to not leave it in a place where it actually is relevant.
Sweet. Alright, perfect. So... we get to explore a new area as we move into Submachine 6. Submachine 6 is the edge, and appropriately we get to explore the edge. Let's put that on the map. Let me just put edge here. I don't have enough room. Edge! The edge is the sort of border wall between the outer rim and the core. Essentially. It serves as the defense boundary between the 2, I guess, portions, main sections of the subnet, and is very hostile to humans. The subnet historically hates humans, does not like them, and attempting to cross the edge usually results in death. So, Murtaugh sending us out here is already bad juju. But, we get to go out and we get to explore the edge. Now, the edge is entirely generated by the subnet. It is not man-made whatsoever. It is completely self-generated, presumably by the Shiva unit in some way. And all of it looks very, very similar to each other. It is probably one of the first things that the subnet ended up generating because, oh man, it is literally just metal corridors. It's very digital, interestingly enough, and it is incredibly samey. All of the rooms are very similar. All of it looks, it's like these winding halls of metal with terminals that who knows how they're being accessed, but you know, it's all essentially there mostly to act as a deterrent for humans. It's mostly just there to keep people from crossing it. In fact, it is shown that the edge is strapped. It's got guns on top of it everywhere. So, it is entirely possible to get completely shot down. Which has never happened, to my knowledge. But the fact that it can happen is very funny to me. I find the idea that someone is flying close to the edge in some way, shape, or form and is not properly validated by the defense systems and just gets shot down. Who knows where they fall? Who knows? It's never been shown what's at the bottom of the subnet, so sucks to be them. But thankfully, it's never really been shown to have happened yet. We as the player, we get to sneak in. Kind of. Almost. We get shut out. But we make an effort. And we get to sort of explore the edge. And our goal during Submachine 6 is primarily to disable the defense systems. And Murtaugh needs those defense systems disabled so he can invade the core, because he got locked out. Security won't let him pass the edge anymore, so he's looking for a way in. And thankfully, we do find a way. I mean, of course you do. You're the player. But interestingly enough, you're not the only person that has gotten sent to the edge to try and disable the defense systems. There are plenty of notes that you find along the way of other survivors and search teams that have gotten presumably either captured by the subnet monitoring system. They die of like thirst or starvation. You know, people that got caught, basically. You are hardly the first one to get sent out to the edge to try and disable the systems. And, well, clearly it hasn't worked yet, but you get to be the special, one that does it. So, good job, you. You've done it. Great. It's actually a pretty small game. It's surprisingly easy, so I don't know how they messed it up, but whatever. But once you do, interestingly, Murtaugh essentially completely abandons you. Is like, okay, well, I didn't actually expect you to finish. That's great. Thank you very much. I didn't have an exit plan for you, so I'm gonna go now. And so he goes. Murtaugh just abandons you.
That makes me feel real good about Murtaugh.
He's a strange man. He's a very strange man. And don't worry, you're not the only person that dislikes him. Most people who explore the subnet, historically, don't like him. They think he's weird.
Like, just sort of on the level of game that puts you through portals and in a place that kind of wants to kill you, Murtaugh is just a little under GLaDOS.
A little bit. A little GLaDOS coded. Yeah, no, everyone seems to kind of hate him a little bit. Just a smidge. They all think he's weird. He frequently is very not helpful as a person, and he sort of just focuses on everything he's doing and not much else. Maybe sometimes Liz. But for the most part, unfortunately, Murtaugh is very he-focused. He's looking out for number one for the most part. And so he's like, I don't know, I kind of didn't really even expect this to happen, and I don't really have a solution for you to get out of here, so, good luck, I guess. And he leaves to go to the core, and he's going to invade the core. And he's not just there to, like, stop by. No, he comes strapped, too. He comes with guns. Probably took him from the defense systems. But he comes with gun and full-on invades the core with other people. He shoots people. It's crazy. He does a full-on invasion of the Southern Gardens, which we're going to get to very soon, because that's where Submachine 7, the core, takes place. The Southern Gardens are a very important location. Not only because Murtaugh studies there for a time after he leaves the lighthouse, but also because, as mentioned, he comes back to invade it, sort of essentially get back to it, have access to it again, so he can take the knowledge and sort of do some repair. Because, as we'll come to learn, Murtaugh has done a lot of very questionable things to the subnet. Has kind of trashed the place a little bit. But, that's stuff we learn pretty soon here. So we'll get there pretty soon. Don't worry. I won't leave you in suspense.
This is beginning to feel a little like, okay, well, now I'm going to be undecided of the subnet because Murtaugh did Murtaugh things.
Don't worry. I promise he's cool. We'll get there. But, we get to the core after the invasion happens. So all is peaceful and we don't actually get to meet anyone, of course. But, the Southern Gardens, which I'm going to, right here. Gardens! We love some gardens. The Southern Gardens is another place that is built by the one Henry O'Toole, if you'll remember his name, from the Kent Lighthouse. And his construction of these gardens is very important, because these gardens, reportedly, according to Murtaugh, hold the exact same structure as the subnet. They're built very similarly. Except one is just not technology, and one is. But they're built with almost the same stuff. They're built with the same blueprints. Sort of. Henry O'Toole is a sort of strange visionary in the world. He works for a group, I believe, called the Four Dynasties. And they take up shop. They're sort of responsible for building a lot of the initial structure that becomes the subnet and the initial core of the subnet. And it is their strange buildings which are responsible for some of the very strange things that happen within the Submachine universe. Because we are going to start learning about karma. We're 7 games in, and we finally get to start learning about karma. Because it all starts here, in the Southern Gardens.
Oh, good. I was wondering if we were going to ever figure out what karma is.
Yes, we are! Karma is not exactly the, conception of, like, you know, the conception we have. Karma is a substance. Karma is a strange, blue, glowing substance. which we don't know how it's extracted or how we get it. But it is an inherent part of the submachine, or the subnet. It's this strange, weird material that allows you to do some wacky things. It allows you to break reality, kind of. Which is why Henry O'Toole is such an important builder, because he uses karma in his constructions. He's the first person recorded, at least within the Submachine universe, to use karma in his buildings to build things called anti-structures, which are these very wacky sort of, they break the laws of physics, essentially. If you've ever seen those, like, weird structures in, like, Pathologic, where, like, you have no idea how they're standing, like, they shouldn't be supported, they're like that. They sort of float, they're weird, they're strange, and it is these karmic constructions, that are composed most of the Southern Gardens. And because the Southern Gardens are sort of a blueprint that gets grafted onto the core of the submachine, karma becomes very integral to the structure of the subnet as a whole. So thank you, Henry O'Toole. Very cool. You ruined it for everyone. And it is the reason why Murtaugh is so interested in the Southern Gardens, because, well, he's the one with the karma arm. This is sort of important for him.
Oh yeah, Indy was asking if this is where we get our third arm.
Yes! Murtaugh is one of the other people who can harness, the karma as a building tool, and as a substance. It's how he builds his arm. So, karma also has some very interesting properties, when it comes to reality. Even more so than just breaking the laws of physics. But we'll get there in the next game. We'll touch on a little bit here, but we'll get there in the next game, and I'm going to need you to stay with me. I'm going to tell you a lot of things that's going to be very confusing, but I'm going to need you to stay with me. So, basically, after Murtaugh invades and we get there, we get to explore the Southern Gardens, see what's up, and we actually get a little more insight into Liz and what she's been doing this whole time. Turns out she's been chilling back in the Southern Gardens for pretty much all this time, mostly working on, you know, studies, working on mapping out some of the subnet, all that fun stuff. She chills in her own little ship, relaxes, has a decent time, keeps up with Murtaugh on the off days. All that fun stuff. We also get to see some of the incidental destruction that Murtaugh has accidentally created through his experiments. As Murtaugh was not always super great at making karmic portals with his funny little karma arm. Karmic portals really start becoming a part of the series because it is shown here that they kind of break reality a little bit. Which, I mean, you think about it, yeah. They connect 2 points in space that shouldn't be connected. Of course, reality is going to get a little bit upset about that. But they sort of destroy things if they're not made properly. And so, while Murtaugh was training in the Southern Gardens, he kind of wrecked the place in the process. Most of it's been pretty destroyed. By the time you get there, there's so many floating things. You sort of hop, skip, and jump around a lot of the Southern Gardens. And there are walls that are broken. Reality is crumbling a little bit. Because Murtaugh needed to train to, you know, make the karma portals perfect so they don't start destroying reality. Oops! But the remnants of that are very, very important. That Murtaugh has been accidentally destroying everything by making these karmic portals to go places. So we get to explore a little bit through the Southern Gardens. do a really, really long puzzle that involves locations and symbols. If you know, you know. And we get to go into Liz's ship. It looks very nice. It's like a cool steampunk ship. It's very cool. I'm very jealous. But we find out the relationship between Liz and Murtaugh has gotten a little shaky. A little bit. They're still friends, but Liz is a little less keen about accidentally destroying everything with karma portals. Not a fan of that, which is understandable. I wouldn't be a fan either. So, she's like, I don't think you should be doing that, Murtaugh. I think you should maybe work on this a little more and stop destroying reality as we know it. And Murtaugh's like, okay. But by the time we get to Liz's ship, it's already been shot up, so it's got like bullet holes everywhere. There was a full-on invasion here. Just so Murtaugh could get access to all this information and stuff. And there is a reason for it. There is a reason for it. And the reason for it is because Murtaugh feels really bad. Murtaugh feels really bad about everything. The latter half of the Submachine series is sort of the Murtaugh reconciliation arc, where he realizes, oh god, I kind of buggered everything up, didn't I? Liz like, yeah, you kind of did bugger everything up. He's like, alright. Well, now that I've buggered everything up, sorry about that. I think it's time to stop buggering it up and start fixing it a little bit. So, this is the beginning of the Murtaugh reconciliation arc. He goes to the Southern Gardens to gather information, presumably so he can start repairing the damage that he's done. He isn't doing a great job of it yet. However, he does have cool karma powers, so he is essentially in the best position that anyone could be when it comes to repairing the subnet and the reality that he's accidentally destroyed. And as we move on to Submachine 8, we're gonna get a real good idea of just how much destruction this one man has wrought, because I get to introduce you to the 8 layers of reality. Stay with me, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll get there. Listen. So, reality in the subnet, or in general, is not quite as it seems. There is not one reality, but technically about 7 different realities that you can be a part of. Imagine it like the Mandela effect. Or at least the conspiracy theory of the Mandela effect. The idea that there is an alternate universe that pronounces Berenstein as Berenstein. Those sort of changes are things that would be on different layers of reality. They're essentially like alternate universes, but a lot of the geometry of the world stays relatively intact-ish. Kind of. The 7 layers of reality are still quite separate, but there are, like, key features that at least stay relatively the same. So, you can sort of get the idea of it, which is the main idea of Chapter 8, The Plan.
I just want to cut in and say your category now finally makes sense to me.
Yes. We made it!
Okay, that's one question down.
Submachine 8, The Plan, takes place in Sector 9. You get there through Karma Portal from Liz's ship. And Sector 9 is important. Sector 9. Sector 9 is essentially the sort of, I guess, proof-ish of something called the Plan. The Plan is fairly important. It is an idea Murtaugh has, basically. All comes back to this one dude. Every time. The Plan is essentially the idea to make a sort of superstructure in which things do not change between the 7 layers of reality. Because one of the biggest problems why people would get so lost in the subnet is because teams would get stranded on different layers of reality without any real way of coming back. And because they're stranded in different layers of reality, they can be standing in the exact same place at the exact same time and never make contact with each other because they're on a different layer of reality. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does, in the sense that it's like being phased out.
Yeah. Yes. Sector 9 is a sort of prototype for the plan. In which all...
Play, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Val, that's like exactly what I'm thinking.
Perfect. Sector 9 is sort of the prototype for the plan, where all of the places, all of the screens that you can explore in Sector 9 have corollaries in every single layer of reality. And while they aren't the same, they are similar enough to warrant being important. Because sometimes they just aren't. Sometimes you can jump to a different layer of reality and there's just nothing there. So Sector 9 was the sort of prototype for Murtaugh's construction of the plan. And the plan does actually get completed. We're gonna go there soon. The important thing to note about the plan is it centers around a specific karmic construction called the Knot, because it ties all layers of reality together. He's so good at naming. But, the Knot is constructed somewhere. It's sitting in the core somewhere, specifically at the bottom of the temple, I believe, if I'm correct. And we'll get to the temple. That's a few games away. But the Knot is this sort of karmic construction that allows the plan to exist. It ties the layers of reality together so you can start building superstructures that exist in all layers of reality. And it's in certain locations that are close to the Knot, you actually get to see it. During Submachine 8, you actually get a device that allows you to hop between the 7 layers of reality. It's my favorite it's one of my favorite Submachine games for that. It's super creative and fun. It's a really cool mechanic. But once you get to Submachine 9, where we start exploring the temple, while your layer hopping device does work, the temple actually doesn't change, because it is very, very close to the Knot. So the temple is an example of the plan being put into actions. It's the same in all 7 layers of reality, and theoretically, people on all 7 layers of reality can coexist together in the temple, which is very important. But still on Submachine 8, we sort of, go through the 7 layers of reality, get a vibe for what they are. They're very different in Sector 9. You got the... Oh, gosh. There's, like, the fancy place. There's a place that looks like the sewers. There's the place that looks like the war bunker. It's a lot. It's a lot. But, the 7 to 8-ish, we'll get there, layers of reality, very important, because they sort of extend all the way back through the Submachine games and all the way forward, because there's a big problem with all the layers of reality funky stuff that that Murtaugh has been doing, because not only has he been destroying the physical structures of reality, but he's been sort of accidentally destroying the whole layers of reality thing with his karmic portals too. So he's really tearing everything apart. In specific, he is completely destroying the third layer of reality, which is very unfortunate, because it's the layer of reality that both him and Liz come from. Because, you know, there's a bunch
you could argue that karma can be mean.
It can. It can. It's kind of sad reading about Murtaugh. He's very sad about destroying the third layer. It is apparently his experiments have destroyed the third layer so bad that he like looks at it. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna focus on the other 6." Murtaugh fully abandons the third layer of reality, which is very sad because it's the one he lives in. So, you hate to see it, but the third layer of reality is kind of in shambles thanks to Murtaugh's messing about, trying to make the plan happen, and of course,
Murtaugh is the worst isekai protagonist. I'm sorry.
Honestly. But it's okay. He's trying to rebuild it.
Except for the third layer.
Except for the third layer. The third layer is kind of a lost cause right now. But, he's doing his best on the rest of them. And, it's interesting that the plan does actually work. It's very interesting that despite all the destruction that Murtaugh, does, he does actually end up doing a lot of cool stuff, with it. His plans do actually work. When he's got an idea and he puts it, even if he accidentally destroys a bunch of things along the way, he does actually get it done. And it does actually generally make things a lot better in the long run. So, it's a weird 50-50 situation. Destroyed a layer of reality, made cool superstructures so people from different dimensions can talk to each other. I think it's like a, you know, it's like a 50-50 thing. A little bit of good, a little bit of bad. But, we get to explore some of these, and get the feel for the 7 layers as we, explore through Sector 9, and we eventually make our way to the temple. The temple's quite important. We can actually just, we can label this now. That's the temple, and here are the knot locations. All of the knot locations are within the core. Places that are close to the knot have their sort of realities tangled up, and all that fun stuff. And the farther you get from the knot, the more chaotic the 7 layers of reality become, and the weirder they get. So, generally, you're going to be sticking around the knot for just a little bit. The temple and the knot right below it, within the ruins, right below the temple, very important, because reportedly, after the events of Submachine 7, presumably, after the invasion of the core, Murtaugh goes down to the knot so he can start repairing things, because he realizes, oh boy, I destroyed a lot. And the knot's generally the best place to start reconstructing things because it's stable, it works, I know how it works, I built it, and generally things are comprehensible close to the knot, so this is a good place to start, like, rebuilding everything that I accidentally destroyed. So, Murtaugh heads down there, and who else also makes their way down there, but all the people who are very upset about having the Southern Gardens invaded, and people who generally just don't like Murtaugh in general, they all meet at the knot down at the bottom of the ruins, or at least somewhere in the temple, and they have a crazy showdown. The results are not explicitly talked about, but Murtaugh presumably lives, and so does Elizabeth. So, They made it out fine, and they get to go on their fun reconstruction journey. But there was reportedly quite the conflict pretty close to the knot at the temple, because everyone who hated Murtagh knew he was going to be there, and Murtagh knew he was also going to be there because it's the best place to be. So they had a crazy interaction at some point, and we don't know how that turned out in terms of, like, death count. I don't know what happened specifically, but there was a confrontation of some sort. Maybe they all talked it out and now they're all friends. Who knows? However, I will say that Murtagh did shoot them up, like, at least a week ago. So, I don't know if they just talked it out. I feel like it went a little worse than that, but we technically don't know, so I can't make any assumptions, but, you know.
We can assume there's a reality somewhere where they did.
Maybe.
Maybe, but there's probably a lot of them where they didn't.
Interestingly enough, down in the temple, we also get to see some more things that Murtagh has accidentally destroyed, and that is the flow of time. He destroyed it! Oops! Time is very funky in the subnet, and it's probably Murtagh's fault. Maybe. I mean, we assume that it's his fault, because who else's fault would it be? It's Murtagh. He's the only one who likes to futz about with this sort of stuff. Who else would accidentally ruin the flow of time? It's going to be Murtagh. But, this does culminate in a very strange way, where Murtagh gets to see his own grave down at the bottom of the temple, which is so strange, and I honestly don't even want to think about that, because, oh boy, whew, that's a lot. That's a lot. I don't even know if I'd wish that on Murtagh. Or I didn't deserve it that bad. He gets to see his own dead body, and Elizabeth's dead body, which is super unfortunate. But it goes to show he kind of ruined time for everyone as well. Presumably he does some time travel in the future, because Karma can do that too. It's that reality bending. Karma's some dangerous stuff, and Murtagh for some reason is very good with it, which is dangerous. But, you know, he's also rebuilding things, so it's a good bad thing. You take it and you leave it. We actually get to use some karma ourselves in Submachine 9. We get to use some karma to construct some very cool things. You can construct physical things from karma. You can you can construct all sorts of strange devices. You can construct levers. You can construct all sorts of fun things with karma. Even just like using like liquid karma, you can just like draw things in air and make them reality. It's very cool. Karma's very powerful and very, very scary. But it's very useful as a building tool, because it's sort of like God's 3D pen. You can sort of just draw stuff, or just like pour it in air, and you can make cool things with it, just like that, and it'll be solid. It's great. And clearly you can do a lot more with it if you concentrate it enough. Interestingly enough, with our new 7 layers of reality, we do get a bit of insight into how Murtagh actually makes his portals. Reportedly, he makes his portals by focusing his karma arm, specifically, sort of coalescing his karma arm together, because otherwise it's split up between the 7 layers of reality for some reason, because karma's just really funky. But reportedly, as he puts it, he focuses all 7, there's 7 now, of his karma arms across the different realities together into one point. And the place he touches becomes a karmic portal. So, more explanations! This poll's crazy.
For VOD purposes, there is now a poll in chat. Which do you prefer? 7 layers of reality or 7-layer dip?
That's a hard decision. What if it's a 7-layer dip of reality?
Prize layer is your dead body.
I mean, if you construct a 7-layer dip in close enough to the knot, the 7-layer dip will exist in all 7 layers of reality.
Perfect.
So, well, that makes it, like a 35-layer dip? Or just a 7-layer dip. But all that aside, that's too much. I mean, hey, I'm not the one who's suggesting to build it. I'm just saying you can make the 7-layer dip. I'm saying it's technically possible. I'm not saying you should. But
I will say, I think we flew a little too close to the sun with this, because Sol and I just lost your blackboard.
Oh no! Strange.
It is, however, still up on the mainstream.
Huh.
So.
Interesting.
And we are actually getting a little closer to our next mandated water, bathroom, and consumables break. So...
Ooh. Maybe we should do that right now before we get into the funky stuff.
Like a good plan. And chat, now would be a really good time for you to make your own 7-layer dip. How long does that usually take to make? I've never made a 7-layer dip.
Me either. I don't even know what it is. What's a 7-layer dip? I've just heard the name.
I think it's exactly what it says. Each, like, beans and cheese but you know.
Let me see. I want to see a picture of the 7-layer dip. Hold on. Whoa! People just make this? It's like a cake. But dip.
Okay, maybe we don't have enough time to make a 7-layer dip. But we sure as heck can try. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And we are back. I hope you've gotten, well, we didn't get a 7-layer dip, but 7 layers of reality, and one of them you probably did. Rena, how are you feeling? Cozy? All prepped?
Oh, yeah, I'm chilling.
I
love...
How is your 7-layer hot chocolate?
Oh, fantastic.
It's amazing.
It is fantastic. Oh, man. I'm back, though. I made it alive. Whew, I had to speedrun this hot chocolate. I was running. I got some peppermint hot chocolate, though. It's the season, my friends. And with some chocolate whipped cream, which does exist. Very delicious.
Oh, is that what that is on top?
Yeah.
That really is 7 layers of chocolate.
Yeah, I went crazy. But... as we kind of come back to this intermission, I'm here to fill these last 2 gaps in the map because they represent 2 different games that we don't really need to talk about too much. The first one over here on the outer rim is the 32 Chambers, which holds some level of significance-ish. Kind of. It's very funny, actually. 32 Chambers was originally kind of a joke game made by Matthews, where you sort of play through a sort of Mayan-ish temple, vaguely. It pulls a lot of inspiration out of that general area of spirituality, but the joke of that game is by the end of it, you would like assemble a Mayan calendar and you like set back the date of the apocalypse to like 7479 or something. It's very funny. But now with the Legacy Edition, it has some level of seriousness now. Because it doesn't end in a joke. Specifically, the number 32 pops up a strange amount within Submachine. as a series. The number 32 happens a lot. And we actually do get some answers as to why in the latest Submachine Legacy release. Oh wait, we have a redeem for sipping some hot chocolate? We have a redeem for that? It's so good. Great. Cheers. But we do actually have some significance for the number 32. Reportedly, it is the amount of possible outcomes of going through a door in transferring between submachines. The way it works, I believe, is that if you look over here, I can actually draw another hatch here. Let me draw another hatch here, just so it makes a little more
yes,
sense.
our hatch for alternate reality Baskin Robbins.
Yes.
We already have 32 flavors instead of 31.
As you'll see, in one of the submachines, there are 4 possibilities for doors. You can have a door on either this side, this side, this side, this side. And reportedly, I believe, there are 32 possible combinations of doors that you can have leading out of a submachine and into another. There are 32 combos, I believe. And because of this, this number is fairly significant for the construction of the subnet, because it represents the amount of possibilities you have in building off of another of the subnet structure. And of course, those lead into other rooms which also have 32 possibilities, and so on and so forth. So the number 32 actually holds a strange sort of spiritual significance within the subnet, because it's sort of this number of, like, I guess, construction, ponderance, rebirth, stuff like that. And indeed, the 32 chambers, there are 32 screens in that game. And the coordinates of the place is 032. So, it's a spiritually significant area that we get to explore in one of the games. And now you're probably wondering about this bubble out here. The last place we need to fill out on our map, which I'm going to label as FLF. And we get to go through a little bit of submachine history. Because Matthews is apparently famous enough to get a deal with a band. The Future Loop Foundation is a band that exists. You can listen to their music. I don't know much about them outside of that. But Future Loop Foundation is also a submachine game that was made to promote the band's newest album. At least I believe. Unless it's the album that's the name Future Loop Foundation. It's one of them. It's either the band or it's the album that's promoting. One of them. But the point is, it's tied to an album. And, so, the game was made essentially as just promotion, at first. It was made to promote it. You could see the bunch of, like, cover art and stuff in there. And at first it didn't hold any lore significance. However...
So, gonna just cut in real quick to say you're right. It is the band that is named Future Loop Foundation.
Okay, cool. Yo, I'm not crazy. So, this game started out as not canon. However, at some point, the deal between Matthews and Future Loop Foundation came to an end. And because of that, the game could not stay up in its current state. Because not only was the album old by that point, but, you know, the agreement ran out and it didn't really hold any significance in the lore. So, it eventually got retooled to simply Submachine FLF, or as it is known in the Submachine Legacy release, just the future. It's just so vague. It's so vague. and everything in this game is so vague. We get no answers as to where it is placed in anywhere. We just know that it is sometime in the future. Somewhere out there. It involves going into like a projector screen at some point. Probably karma stuff. I don't think about it that often, but it's a thing. And for the most part, nothing significant really happens in it, but it is technically canon, and it does bring up something interesting about the lore. Because in a statement, Matsu's made a very, very said something very interesting about the different versions of Future Loop Foundation. Specifically, he didn't explicitly decanonize the original version of Submachine Future Loop Foundation. Instead, he decided to make it one step more convoluted and said that the new version is just the Layer 5 version. I hate him for this, but...
He gave a specific layer.
He gave a specific layer! So... this brings up an interesting question, because a lot of different Submachine games have had different versions over the years. They've gotten updated. Are all the different updates just different layer versions of locations?
I mean, if they've never gone more than 7.
Technically, I don't think they have. So, and normally I would just be able to dismiss this as, oh, Matthew's saying some funny stuff in a press release. Howdy do. It sure isn't in a game, so I don't have to consider it. But then Submachine Legacy came out, and there's a very interesting comment about the version of Submachine 1 in that game. It is made in a pretty interesting place, which we'll get into once we finish up with all the 10 Submachine games, because there's some extra content that Legacy added that I need to talk about. But in some of that extra content, or no, it's in Submachine 10. There we go. It's in Submachine 10, I believe. There is a new scrawling on the wall. And that scrawling is in reference to a strange anachronicity of this version of the basement that we see in the Submachine Legacy release. This is gonna get really weird, but in the Flash version of Submachine 1, the basement, the one you can probably play right now, there is a coin on the ground that gives you a code, and you use that code to open a box. Great stuff. However, in the new release, the puzzle is changed. I won't spoil as to what it's changed to, but interestingly enough, the coin is still there, and normally you would think it was just a cool Easter egg. However, in the Legacy version of Submachine 10, there's a scrawling on the wall right above where the coin is that says, "Why is the coin here? It's useless now. It doesn't have numbers scrawled on it anymore." So the game acknowledges its existence, and it brings deliberate attention to it not being useful anymore. Which means that presumably every update of the basement is probably a different layer of reality.
I hate this.
Me too!
I understand now why you hated me. You hated me referencing that early on in the showcase.
I hate it.
Sorry, Soul. You were saying honestly
It's fine. We all hated it ever.
It's such a strange decision, but all versions of every Submachine game have now officially been canonized as simply different layer versions. So there you go. If you play any version of the basement, it's technically canon. Thank you, Matisse. Very cool. It's the one thing I don't like about the lore. The only thing. Otherwise, I think this is all really cool and very fascinating. But this one decision makes me mad. So, we all have Future Loop Foundation to thank for this. So, thank you, Future Loop Foundation. One deal fell out. One deal concluded between a game developer and a band, and now it's my problem. Great. Thankfully, there are no other side games to talk about. We're done with the side games. It's Ancient Adventure, there's 32 Chambers, and there's the Future, or Future Loop Foundation. Those are the only side games we need to talk about. Back to Sub 9. Once we get to the knot, because we do get to go to the knot, it's very fun. We get to go down this giant statue of Shiva. It's very cool. But the deity Shiva, not the Shiva unit. The actual real-life deity Shiva. Which implies that the temple is, in fact, a place that was brought in from the surface world. But, that aside, you get to see the knot. It looks very cool. And down there, you get access to the tentative 8th layer of reality. I say tentative because it's kind of a nothing dimension. It's essentially the 8th layer of reality is just the karma place. It's nothing but karma. It's nothing but cool karma. They got light everywhere. It bends in funky ways. And it is sort of the place that you draw from when you are harnessing the energy of karma. You're drawing from the 8th layer of reality, essentially. And you finally get this ability down at the bottom of the temple. It's a pretty nice place. It's pretty cool. It's very bright. It's very interesting. Now let me draw the layer navigator real quick. It would fit nicely in here. Whee! And I also kind of like the way it looks. Like one of these. Wee. And then we do one of these. Ooh, that's kind of big. Let me just, yeah. It's kind of ramshackled anyways. It's kind of got bandages going. It's kind of pieced together. It's kind of a mess when you get your hands on it. It's kind of a mess.
Isn't that just what happened with the subnet?
Yeah, it is. It starts out with only 7 buttons, but you get the 8th one at the bottom of the temple, which allows you to go to the 8th layer of reality. It's very cool. And it's got wires, I think? Yeah, it's got a wire. And it ends in a sort of stethoscope kind of deal, if I remember correctly. Or maybe they're earbuds. I don't know. They hook into your brain somehow.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound terrifying at all.
I mean,
Can he hear us, though, once the earbuds are in?
Oh, no. No. I mean, you are jumping through layers of reality. I guess you kind of have to do some funky things to your brain to do that. That makes some intuitive sense. I will give it that. And we can, let's draw some more funny things. Let's draw a nice little, if I remember how this looks, the little karma vessel you get. It's like a little jar. I'm not great at drawing the jar. Yeah. And then it's got the handle. Whee! And it gets all funky. It gets all funky. I don't have... let me get my blue out. Where's my blue? Give me my blue. Technically, the karma you get from here is green. Typically the color doesn't matter that much, but, you know. It's a detail. But, we're finally on to the last Submachine game, Submachine 10. And thankfully, there's not a... It's kind of a crazy amount to talk about. Not a super crazy amount to talk about, but enough to talk about. Basically, Submachine 10 is the exit. It's finally time to get the heck out of here. It's finally time to leave.
You mean you can actually leave?
You can!
That's an option.
You leave! Right? It's crazy. You wouldn't think it, but you do... You do actually finish. Submachine 10 is the end of the mainline series. Ugh, a little bit of stretchy. Yay.
Wait, but mainline series suggests there's more.
Yeah, well, there's the spin-off games, and there's some more content we'll have to talk about. But the mainline series, it ends here. Submachine 10. Submachine 10, sort of kind of gives a nice finale to everything. You get to visit all sorts of locations from all across the subnet and sort of make some amends, sort of like Murtaugh. You sort of jump around, make tacit repairs to machines, get to take some visits to some fun places. The Royal Storage Facility is one of my favorites, even if it screws me over a lot when I play the game. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said someone turned spatial looping into a storage system. Here's the place. In the Royal Storage Unit, someone just decided that they were going to make loops, or I guess abuse looping technology to some degree, and they just made infinite storage glitch. And they made multiple.
Honestly, no, that's smart.
Yeah, that is smart. Big ups to whoever did that. I don't know who did. Presumably someone of royal status. I would assume probably Henry O'Toole did it, because he seems to construct all the cool stuff in the Submachine universe, generally. So, I'm gonna crack it up to Henry O'Toole being a quirky, funny beast, and leave it at that. We also get to see some more of the lab through the Karmic Studies facility. We get to see some more notes from Murtaugh, and we start to do some reconstruction ourselves. We gain some fun karma abilities while we're in Sub 10. We get a cool little vial, kind of like this one, but more powerful and much cooler. And you can actually go around the entirety of the locations that you can explore in Sub 10 and repair a bunch of structures, much like Murtaugh has been doing this whole time. And you can also see some of the structures and how much they have degraded over time, because the events of the Submachine games do not take like a few days, they take like a few months, maybe like a year. It takes a while. So you get to see some old locations, you get to go back to the lighthouse and see how utterly destroyed it is. It's a complete mess when you get back there, because there is a karma portal there up at the top, and it is wreaking havoc. And, oh, there is one very funny detail that the Legacy Edition added in. When you go back to the lighthouse in Sub 10, and you go up to the karma portal on the top of the lighthouse, you can go into it again, because it's still active from the last time you activated it, and it will just take you back to Sub 3. It'll just take you back to the loop, and you'll have to like quit out and go back to Sub 10. It's very funny.
Okay, no, that's really neat, actually, to bundling everything into one game.
Yeah, It was great. When I did that accidentally, I was like, ooh, let me try it. And I got absolutely owned. The smile on my face. I was like, thank you, Gabe, for letting me do that. You do actually, there was a very interesting thing. You take items from previous places that you've been. You end up going back to the original Sub 1 basement, and it is decrepit. It is decrepit, there's moss everywhere, the boards are run down, it's a mess. But you can take, like, almost every single item from Sub 1. You just take it. Yoink everything. And it's yours. And you get to use them for stuff. It's very cool. And, you go back to, you know, Sub 2. Clearly you can go back to Sub 3 if you want. You go back to lab, pick up stuff there. You sort of go on, like, the sort of, you go on the sort of Submachine tour through 10. You get to go back to all the places and sort of set things back. Power things on, repair stuff, sort of follow in Murtaugh's footsteps in repairing the subnet, and all that fun stuff. And then you actually get to leave, and it's the funniest thing in the world. The place you leave from, the place that connects back to the outside world, it's the top of the lighthouse from Sub 2.
So we could have...
You found a way to break through the metal plating. It's above ground.
We could have just done this whole time instead of being caught in a loop. Well, like, imagine being caught in a loop.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts of any of the Submachine games. Is coming out of the lighthouse at the top, taking the light thing, going through, realizing that you were that close to surface all this time. Because you go back to the lighthouse a lot. You go through it in Sub 2, you go back to it in Sub 4, you go back to it in Sub 5. You go back to the lighthouse a lot because it's a very important location. It's connected to a lot of places. Now, of course, you couldn't really leave because the top of the lighthouse is covered in, like, very heavy-duty metal plating and has only degraded over time because you've been in the Submachine for so long. But, yeah, it's right there. And, finally, you actually get to meet Murtaugh and Elizabeth in person, and the cat's there. They took Einstein.
Well, the cat is clearly the most important part.
I agree. Murtaugh's got the funny looks. He's cool. You actually get to see his karma arm. It looks kind of freaky. It's gone. He is definitely one-armed dude. He wasn't lying.
Karma giveth and karma taketh away.
Yeah, it really does. It's some freaky stuff. And that sort of arc of Sub 10 of that general reconstruction, and all that fun stuff as you and Murtaugh go on a fun journey to repair the subnet, is where the main series ends. Ish. There's gonna be more in the future. We'll see. There's a new release coming up on the horizon. But, there is a little more to discuss. First of all, it's very possible that I said something like, we'll get to that later, and I never got to that later. Please ask me questions of things that I didn't get to later.
I'm gonna be honest, we may have left it behind, like the many notes.
I feel like I did a good job touching back on, but if you have any questions about anything you just heard, just hit me up. If you have any comments or concerns before we get into the
Not sure about comments,
Actually,
but definitely concerns.
Tell me. Give me the sitch.
Gestures at this blackboard.
Yeah, what about it?
It is concerning, to be fair.
Yes.
Okay, we discussed this a little backstage, and it may have just flown over my head if you actually did address it in the course of this very enlightened rant. The secrets. The secret orbs.
That's something we'll get into once we talk about the post-game content of Legacy, actually. They were given a proper lore purpose.
Okay, and just to put this in context for anyone in the audience who may not have played these games, in some of the games there are collectibles. They're just tiny little orbs. Tiny little orbs hidden in some of these, again, hand-drawn scenes. They're called secrets. I think there are at least like 20 of them when you have them in the game. And apparently they have lore purpose.
They do. Big ups. They used to not, but they do now. Let's see. I can't draw Murtaugh. He's funny. Ooh woo. I destroyed an entire layer of reality. Ooh woo. Please forgive me.
There are so many jokes to be had from this, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Let's see,
But all I can picture now is Murtaugh just going, I made a little oopsie whoopsie.
His funny
Just
little
a little
caramel
lucky.
arm. Oh, God, no, stop scrolling down. What's up, homies? I know I destroyed a layer of reality, but like, could you like?
Are we still cool?
And he's got the funny cat. Like, I'm gonna draw a cat. I'm gonna draw a really bad cat. Meow.
Rin in chat is saying while you were explaining this, they kept suspecting that we were Murtaugh the entire time.
Surprise!
So they think he's actually all of us.
Well, he might be representative of the follies of science and humankind. However, he is not literally all of us. You do actually get to talk to him throughout the games a little bit. You get messages from him. That's where he's getting the arms from. True. He stole our arms. They're not karma arms. Ignore the fact they're translucent. But
I mean, they're translucent because they're just on separate planes of reality.
But you know, we do actually talk to Murtaugh throughout the games. We don't have active conversations with him. He does send messages throughout the events of Submachine 4 through 6, which is the I'm on Murtaugh's team arc, I guess, where we kind of just hang out with him and become his little errand buddy for a little bit. He sends messages, he gives orders, he sends us on a death run. You know, as you do. Now,
Perfectly normal things.
it is stated in one of the notes that he does heavily regret the way he treated the people he sent out to the edge. But I feel like it's a little too late. They're dead already. They died. It's a little too late, Murtaugh. You should have apologized a little earlier, but I'm glad you wrote it. Interestingly enough, Murtaugh is responsible also for every note you see in the Submachine games indirectly, because Murtaugh is the one that tells adventuring parties or explorer groups to keep active notes. He's the one that told them to do it. He's the person that told everyone, hey, you need to like write down all your thoughts because they might be important to future people, and also you should write down coordinates, because I'm not going to have any more of you get lost anymore. They got lost anyways, because they don't like Murtagh, and they only like half listen to him, but he was actually kind of spitting with that one. They should have been writing down the coordinates, and sometimes they did. Most of the time, not really, but, well, everyone did kind of hate Murtagh, so they were like, no, screw you. But he is indirectly responsible for all the notes that you get from past Explorer teams. He's the one that told them all to write the notes. So, thank you, Murtagh, very cool.
Isn't he the one who sent them all?
Yes. He's the one who sent them all out into the submachine. Or the subnet. He's the one. He did that. And
we
to
were
be
so
fair, he did
close
learn
to
a
getting
lot.
an itchy, tasty note.
Do we have any questions? Because I know that was a lot. Does it kind of make sense? We'll go over like a general overarching plot here. But do we have any questions before I do?
At this point, I'm more curious of how much wilder this fight gets.
Oh, don't worry. It stays wild. We're not done with all the content yet, because Legacy came out. So, as the general plot summary for all of this, as we go over the general plot of the Submachine games, so you know what happens when you play them, because you're going to play them, because they're really good games. You can buy it on Steam now. Basically, preemptive stuff. There are 7 layers of reality. The subnet exists, and people built it. It's relatively sentient, and it builds itself, and you see the map. There are prerequisites. You as an explorer go down into the submachine and explore the basement, which is a collection of rooms that were built by the submachine to transport energy to itself, because it's still a computer at the end of the day. Then you make your way into the lighthouse, which is a part of the route, which connects to a lot of different places, and it connects to the above ground, funnily enough. You find notes from a man named Murtagh, and Murtagh leads you, vaguely-ish, up to the Karma portal in the top of the lighthouse, which he created. It sends you to a place called the Loop. The Loop is important because it's a weird anomaly, and you really shouldn't have ended up there. Very poor luck on that one. Murtagh then takes you out of the loop and sends you to the lab, where you go on essentially a big fetch quest for Murtagh, so he can essentially test your loyalty. Then he sends you on a proper mission to go grab some power sources back from the route. So you get to go back there and you grab power sources for him, and you get some explanation as to what the route is, which is essentially the place where the submachine started and was originally built by humans. Then you activate a submachine with those power sources, which transports you to the edge, which separates the outer rim and the core. Your mission here is to deactivate the defense systems, because Murtagh wants to invade the core for its knowledge, so he can start rebuilding everything that he destroyed while he was experimenting with karma. So you end up managing to deactivate the systems and all that fun stuff, and unfortunately Murtagh does not have an exit plan for you, so he is forced to leave you there as he goes to invade the core. When he does, there's a big fight that happens because people don't like Murtagh, and seeing him again, I guess, sent them into a rage and all that fun stuff. And of course Murtagh came strapped, so they had a big war in a place called the Southern Gardens, which were the original construction which the submachine is based upon. You then also go to the core as you find a way out that Murtagh didn't know about, and you make your way to the gardens to walk through the aftermath and learn some of the history of the submachine, which we have already been through. You then make your way to Sector 9, following in Murtagh's footsteps, presumably as a conflict goes on down in the temple at the Knot, which ties the 7 layers of reality together. There's a lot to talk. You then follow right after and also enter the temple, in which you gain access to all layers of reality, much like Murtagh did. And in such, you then start going around the submachine through sub 10 and start going through the process of repairing the submachine, much in the same way Murtagh is, in which at the very end you all meet up and you start repairing, presumably, the submachine together. The end! Does that make some sort of sense?
I guess. I think I came in just as I'm leaving just as confused as I came in. All I know is I'm in this weird classroom with this weird basement.
Does it
send help? But you might get caught in the loop.
Do you have any questions about anything you just heard? Why end?
So far I am fine. So far I am fine. But where
Awesome.
did Zoku go?
Oh, probably experiencing some connection issues. Okay, if you can understand that.
I was actually trying to make a joke with that, but okay.
If that at the very least makes sense, then I've done my job. Excellent. Ooh. Alright. It's a lot of info. It is a lot. But, if it makes sensible, then I've done well. Now, there is a little more that has been appended thanks to the release of Legacy. After the events of Submachine 10, at some point you go back into the subnet to something called the Broken Quadrant, where we actually get to see some of the reconstruction work that we end up doing. It's the Broken Quadrant, yada yada yada. And this part of Submachine Legacy is a sort of pseudo-strange port of that game I was talking about, Submachine Universe, where you get to explore. This time, however, it is a proper game. Almost all of the locations have been preserved, but they've been given proper puzzles, which are very big, and very scary, and all that fun stuff. And alongside that, you as a player get to, not only go through the Broken Quadrant and start fixing things, but also you get to go back to the old Submachine locations through the game select, and you, through the Submachine 8, layer thing, the layer selector, I guess, the layer hopper, you can go back to previous games to find new secrets. It's very cool. I love Legacy so much. It was such a good release. And if that doesn't intrigue you, I don't know if anything will. But we get to go through the process as players of reconstructing some of Murtagh's, oopsie daisies. And this is sort of where the secrets come in. The secrets have been recontextualized as sort of, I guess, miniature little power cells. I don't remember exactly what they're called. They have a very specific name, and it sounds very scientific and fancy. But you can use the secrets, which you can find throughout all of the games, to unlock new parts in old games and all that fun stuff, to unlock more parts of the Broken Quadrant. And you sort of jump across the whole game and the Broken Quadrant in order to repair it, much in the way that Murtagh is doing. And through that, once you've sort of finished the journey here, you get inducted into the Advanced Research Unit. So Murtagh's back on his game. He's doing it again.
Oh, Murtaugh.
He put together another team, guys. But this time, the team is dedicated a little bit to exploring, but also to repairing, presumably. And also, now Murtaugh knows how to not accidentally destroy an entire layer of reality. So, it's gonna go a little better this time, presumably. And we're not gonna accidentally start destroying everything.
No, now we can
Submachine.
intentionally start destroying everything.
Yes!
Exactly.
So, you know, we're sort of on the good timeline now. And that's sort of, I guess I can put this last thing. There's the broken quadrant. It's quite interesting. Because it encompasses a lot of different locations from all across the subnet. So let me get my shape tool out, huh? Let me get my shape tool.
We're going for the big guns now.
Look at that! Wow! It's another circle that encapsulates more circles. How dope is that? Yeah. That's a bad cue. Hold on, I gotta redo that cue. There we go. Broken quadrant. For you know, for the final piece of Submachine content, you get to be the cleanup crew. Essentially. But it's actually really fun. I actually really like the additional content. It's really, really, really cool. And finally getting like a proper release of Submachine Universe honestly really shocked me. I thought it was never going to happen. Because Matthews actually made a statement about it. It was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do it. It's gonna take a while, folks. Just because how much there is. But jump scare, he did it! But, with that out of the side, now all we have to do is look forward to the next game because he's still making games. Though it's gonna be a little bit. But, presumably, our next Submachine game is titled The Engine, and it's been in the works for a while. And it's not technically a numbered entry, but I imagine it'll follow through from the end of Broken Quadrant. All that fun stuff. And that is actually the real-for-real ending of Submachine. We've gone over all the content, and we're done. For reals. No more jokes.
Imagine being stuck in a loop.
Yeah, it would suck to be that. I can draw the
all right,
broke.
so team back in again?
Yes. Oh, well, let me draw the last little thing. During the Broken Quadrant, you actually get a new method of transportation across the Submachine. It's this interesting little card reader that has little. It's like a punch card, basically. It acts kind of the same way that the root ones do. It's got a little circle. Whee! And interesting enough, it usually has 5 spokes out. Running out of space, but who cares?
If you punch all 9, you get a trip to the knot.
Yeah, you might. Who knows? Well, I'm trying to think if there was a punch card in there that had all 9 lit up. I don't think so. So maybe. But that's basically it. We're done. We finished. That's all of the Submachine lore I can divulge. If there's any last note to end on, there is a funny reoccurring character who unironically goes by the name Sunshine Bunny Girl 17. Like it's like a screen name, but she writes it out on paper, which I think is the funniest thing in the universe. Like, it's the full thing. It's sunshine underscore bunny girl underscore 17.
What? I just see it now. You put your name on like the papers. Like, yeah, I am BunniestBunRena.
Yeah, it's like if I did that. And interestingly enough, she is a strange reoccurring character. She comes up. She's not super important, but every time we see her, she's lost. And I feel like it's a nice note to end on, because I feel like deep down inside, even after all that, I feel like we're all little Sunshine Bunny Girl 17 inside, because I have no idea what the hell I just said. I'm very lost.
That feels like a very good summation of this entire thing.
I love it, but yeah, it's a lot. There's a good ending for her, though. She does end up making it out of the submachine, personally taken by Murtaugh, so she can care for Einstein while they're gone.
Oh, okay.
She got inducted as a cat sitter. So, you know, at the end of it all...
The best possible ending.
Yeah, I agree. Alright, get the cane out. Get the, like...
Alright, well, before we whisk you off stage, Rena, actually, but before we get to shoutouts, I do have one question for you. So, you came and submitted the showcase.
Yes.
And we spent the past while talking mostly about the lore of the game.
Yes.
But how did you get introduced to Submachine? How did you get into this?
Well, I was a kid on the internet in 2009.
I mean, in the age of the elephant games.
You know? Yes.
You found Submachine.
Yes! You said elephant games. That triggered my brain.
This just sounds like pre-Newgrounds era. Like,
Post-Newgrounds
era.
100%. I discovered the games in my Flash era because I really enjoyed Escape the Room games. I thought they were so cool because I loved point-and-click adventure games. I loved puzzle games. So even the cheaply made ones, I was like, oh, heck yeah. And I actually found the series on an aggregator called 123B, which is a whole other can of worms, because they would put out an original Escape the Room game every single Tuesday. Every single week. Which is a content farm so massive I don't even want to think about it. But I found the game on there. They didn't have any other of the games. They had Submachine 3, and only Submachine 3. Which is quite the place to start.
The loop is an interesting introduction.
Yeah, really weird one. But that concept of like an infinite loop, that sort of, I guess, embodiment, that sort of massive size, that incomprehensibility. I was already pretty into cosmic horror as a youngin teenager. So this idea sparked my imagination really hard. And I was like, man, this game's so cool. It's got some really cool ideas. This is Submachine 3, right? Where's Submachine 1 and 2? And through that, I found Mati's personal website, and I was able to play the rest of the games that were out at the time, and it was very interesting. By the time I came in, there were only 6 games, and the 6th game was a cliffhanger, which was interesting at the very least. So I got to sort of watch the series grow into the madness that it becomes from Game 7 and onwards, because it truly does become madness. And watching it all unfold in real time was very interesting. And it also means I got to see Submachine Universe as it grew, because Submachine Universe was almost kind of like a live service game. It would get updates every now and then with new locations, and there was this sort of like, I don't know, there was this sort of like weird like tense excitedness every time Submachine Universe got an update, because it meant there was more to explore and more to find. And I always thought that was really interesting. And I'm kind of sad that that sort of feeling is gone of coming back to Submachine universe or coming back to a game and have it, like, the world just, like, expand. I'm kind of sad that that feeling's gone, but I'm very glad I was around for it. It was really interesting time. And I think since then, I've just been fascinated with this world. It's got so many unique ideas, so many fun things to toy around with. The world is just an absolute goldmine of fantastic ideas. And even if sometimes they aren't implemented in the best ways sometimes, I really do think that this series has one of the most unique worlds, one of the most interesting set pieces that really jogs my creative mind more than almost any other property, which is why I'm here talking to you about it and telling you to go buy Submachine Legacy on Steam. Do it now. It's very good. It's like, I'm trying to think, it's like 14 games. It's 14 games in a single package, and I think it's like 20 bucks for some of the most gorgeous art, because, I mean, we haven't been able to talk about it a lot, but Matthews is a really good artist, and the art has only gotten so much better as the series goes on. He makes some gorgeous illustrations, some of which I have. There is a handy
link in chat. If you happen to be in the chat right now and not on the VOD, if you're not in a different reality, there is a handy link in the chat. We will try to throw a link in the YouTube
yes.
description.
Go support independent artists. We love to see it. And I do recommend you check out his non-Submachine stuff too, because I know I've spent a lot of time ranting about Submachine and all, but he is a Polish comic artist. He has a life outside of Submachine. He does a lot of things, actually. This isn't even his only, like, point and click. Recently, he put out a full-fledged game called Slice of Sea, which I think actually won some awards. So, go check that out. It's really cool. And if you haven't had enough Submachine, or have already played the games, I recommend you also go try Covert Front, which is another series of games that Matthews has worked on that has some tenuous ties to the Submachine universe. But we're not going into it because I haven't played the games.
Well, that might be a subject for another rant.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they are.
But
they are heard for the next Enlightened rant.
Maybe. But all that aside, go support Matthews. If you want to support me, you can find me at BunniestBunRena at Twitch. I sometimes stream when college doesn't completely destroy me. If my co-commentators would like to shout themselves out, please do. I'm so sorry you had to sit through this.
Well, so let's start with you. We just got that nice shout out for you in chat. Thank you for joining us on the ride. How'd you find it?
Very interesting. I may have to check it out sometime.
And where can people find you if you choose to check it out? And if not, it's cool. We won't tell anyone.
Twitch.tv/beamqueensol. I typically do a lot of Kirby speedrunning, but I've been dabbling in some other stuff recently. So, if that sounds like a good time, feel free to follow. If not, I will join you in the loop.
Valid. And my name has been Zokubun. I have been your host this evening for this episode of Lady Arcaders Attract Mode. Please stick around. We've got a few final announcements before we raid out for the night. And we'll be heading off to the intermission screen for that very shortly. What a ride we've been on. Thank you for sticking us through that loop, through all of that. And hey, if you found that's something you were super into, we here at Lady Arcaders, we do Attract Mode shows twice a week. At least once a week. We're trying to keep up twice a week, and we'd love to have your showcases on. Submissions are always open. You can send us your showcase ideas, and like the rants you just saw, they don't even have to be gameplay. Just tell us about video games you love. go to ladyarcaders.com/start for that handy submit link. And speaking of games and showcases of them, next week we have our first playthrough race. If you're new to the channel, this is a recurring series that we've been so pleased to have. Eliza, Valeria, and NBZ rotate positions and as host and players. And every time they go on once a month, the host selects a game for our two racers to finish as fast as possible without ever having seen it before. They just completely blind to play through. Next time, on Sunday, December 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern, or whatever other time zone you may see on your screen, they will be playing through A Juggler's Tale, which is a cinematic platformer where, well, spoilers here, you're gonna just have to tune in to find out. Around for the raid, we will be raiding Power Up with Pride today. They are a charity speedrunning event raising funds for Point of Pride. They've just started their Winter Pride Marathon. So please join us in supporting this fantastic cause. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful night.